I'm Jackie Swanson, and I served in the United States Air Force. I was in from 64 to 67. Well, initially, I was one of those 90-day wonders at the Medina side of Lackland. I went through the officer training school. After that, my first base of assignment was McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas. There, I was the officer in charge of the financial aspect of the recreational areas on the base, the non-appropriated funds areas. Well, actually, I had a friend that convinced me that we needed to go in the military, and we were supposed to join together. However, I joined and she did not. That was one of the reasons, but I also wanted something that was teamwork. The first memory I have was when I went home between OTS and my first assignment, and I wanted to hop to McConnell Air Force Base. So I called my recruiter. My recruiter told me that I probably wouldn't catch a hop, that normally they only went east, they never went west. So I said, okay, just try. Well, 2 days later, he called me back and said, you must be carrying around a lucky rabbit's foot, because he said, I got you a hop. He said, not only a hop, but right directly into McConnell. So that was my first memory. However, when you travel on a C-54 that is not pressurized, when I landed at least, I had both of my ears that were stopped up. And then I got to go visit the flight surgeon, and he blew them out for me. Well, let me see, another memory I had was I was on the pistol team. I joined the pistol team, and they assigned me a 22, a 38, and a 45. So I got to carry those around in the back of my vehicle and make sure that I was very conscious of not letting them get stolen. So, and one time I came home when I lived in an apartment, an outside apartment, and there was somebody standing on my stairs, and he stood there and I sat in my car. So finally I got up and went back around to my vehicle and got out one of my weapons, because I didn't know what was going on there. And back in those days, we didn't have little cell phones. So he eventually walked off. I got to meet Colonel Gail Halverson. And if you don't know who he was considered and called the candy bomber in Berlin. Now, he literally dropped candy from his vehicle, and his airplane. And the kids all loved him. And those kids back then, all they knew was war. So for him to do that for them was a big deal. And he loved doing it. Over 23 tons of candy is what he dropped in that period of time that he was there. And at that time, he was only a lieutenant, but he, eventually he became a full bird colonel. But he was one of the memories that I had. I also had to give a monthly briefing to the colonel, to the base commander. And I was in his office one day when he got a call indicating that he had a plane that was coming in on an emergency status. We shared a runway with Boeing. And we went out and got in his vehicle, and with lights flashing and sirens and everything, we raced down there with all of the fire trucks and met this plane. It was a Boeing 52, a B-52, If you have never stood next to a B-52, those things are absolutely huge. But fortunately, that thing landed well and it didn't have any real problems. But that was, I'd never been on a runway, much less, other than in a plane, much less racing down in a car. So that was kind of fun. I drove a 1957 Nash Rambler. And if anybody remembers this, it's a little box on wheels. And everybody could tell that it was my vehicle. And I told my first sergeant, I said, well, for the next car I buy, I'm going to buy something that nobody can recognize, that everybody will have. The next car I bought was in the first week of December, and it was December of '65, and I bought the first vehicle that came out in Wichita, Kansas. That was a 1966 Dodge Charger, and the salesman wouldn't let me take it until January 1st. So needless to say, that was not very it was very identifiable, let's put it that way. So nobody else had one of those, and I enjoyed that tremendously. It was a nice little car.